For centuries, music had no clock of its own. In ancient Greece, a melody couldn't exist as an independent mathematical timeline. It was entirely chained to the physical world, bound strictly to the meter of spoken syllables and the heavy dropping of a dancer's foot. The philosopher Aristoxenus attempted to measure this fleeting experience. He defined the chronos protos, the primary, indivisible unit of time. But this primary time wasn't a tick on a metronome, it was strictly biological. 1 unit of time equaled exactly the duration of a short syllable of poetry. 2 units equaled a long syllable. If a dancer's foot hit the floor, that was a beat. If the foot lifted, the beat ended. Rhythm was entirely trapped within the physical limits of the human body. It could not yet exist as an abstract mathematical construct. Centuries later, in the monasteries of the Middle Ages, that physical rhythm dissolved into the sprawling, unmetered flow of Gregorian chant. Monks utilized pure monody, a single unified vocal line aiming to reach the divine. This oral tradition relied entirely on rote memory, but as chants grew complex, memory began to buckle. Take the Jubilus, a hypnotic, extended sequence of notes sung over the single final vowel of the word Alleluia. Singers had to memorize dozens of shifting pitches on a single breath, with 0 written reference. The moment a voice stopped echoing off the stone walls, the music ceased to exist. To stop these elaborate melodies from dying instantly in the air, they desperately needed a physical code to capture them. Their first attempt was a system of marks called adiastematic neumes. These cryptic symbols floated above the Latin text, offering a vague outline of whether the melody went up or down, but they failed to dictate exact pitch. If you didn't already know the song by heart, the marks were useless. Scribes began drawing horizontal lines across the page, using red ink for the note fa and yellow for do. These lines finally anchored those floating symbols into a fixed vertical space. In the 11th century, Guido d'Arezzo perfected this mapping with the tetragram, a rigid 4-line grid. Every single pitch now had an absolute mathematical coordinate. By reading the ink's vertical placement on this grid, a singer could internally hear a pitch before opening their mouth. By mapping invisible sound onto physical space, humanity successfully hacked its own biological memory, achieving a permanent record that could outlive the singer. Eventually, human intellect rebels against a single line of thought. If you can write down 1 melody accurately, you can write down 2 and play them simultaneously. This spatial expansion gave birth to polyphony. During the 12th and 13th centuries, composers like Léonin and Pérotin turned the Cathedral of Notre Dame into an acoustic laboratory. They developed early organum. The lowest voice, called the tenor, would take a traditional plain chant melody and stretch a single note out for an enormous length of time, turning that vocal tone into a massive foundational pillar. Above that sustained drone, composers stacked 2, 3, or 4 independent, frantic melodies, weaving them vertically on top of one another. They were building sound exactly the same way engineers built soaring Gothic cathedrals. They constructed vertical, interlocking layers of tension and release. While polyphony successfully pushed music into 3 dimensions, it created a devastating new mechanical problem. With 4 separate vocal lines moving at completely different speeds, maintaining synchronization became impossible without a strict timing system. Without a master clock, those intricate layers of sound quickly collapse into rhythmic chaos. Multiple independent melodies cannot stay synchronized without a master system to measure absolute time. The solution arrived via theorists like Franco of Cologne and the mathematicians of the Ars Nova movement, who engineered mensural notation. They established a remarkably elegant logic. The exact geometric shape of a note inherently dictates its absolute mathematical duration. A square breve could be precisely subdivided into diamond-shaped semibreves. This system worked perfectly on heavy animal parchment, but when the printing press arrived in the 15th century, composers began distributing their work on a delicate new medium, mass-produced paper. The large, solid blocks of heavy black ink seeped deep into the fragile fibers. It literally corroded the paper, eating holes straight through the page. To save the paper, they simply hollowed out the centers of the notes, leaving only the thin outer outlines. The white, hollow noteheads we read today were not born from academic theory. They were a desperate physical compromise to keep the ink from destroying the music. Once absolute pitch and time were successfully coded on paper, musicians sought to mechanically amplify that code beyond the limits of a human lung. This led to the medieval portative organ. Its massive ancestor was the Roman hydraulis, an acoustic beast that generated continuous sound using heavy water pressure. But the smaller, portable medieval organ required a single musician to perform an intense cognitive leap, demanding total physical dissociation. The left hand functioned as a brute force machine, rhythmically pumping the bellows, while the right hand acted as a delicate artist, executing rapid melodic runs. This mechanical division of labor forced the human brain to successfully run two completely independent operating systems within a single physical body. That exact neurological architecture is sitting in practice rooms and living spaces today. When a modern piano student stares at a piece of sheet music, their eyes are scanning the spatial grid engineered by Guido de Arezzo, instantly translating physical dots into absolute pitch and mathematical time. As their left and right hands execute the dense, conflicting lines of a Bach fugue, they are utilizing the neuromechanical dissociation mastered by early organ players. The sheet music on their stand survives as a decoded map of a 1,000-year war against forgotten memory. Every time a musician sits at the keyboard, they are activating a system of coordinates and mechanics engineered over a millennium, breathing life back into the invisible through a direct link to history's greatest theorists.